FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and well, you're hearing a lot about lithium, about potential supply bottlenecks, demand going crazy. But when you're thinking about electric vehicles or electric propelled vehicles, there's an element that seems to get overlooked that is facing a tremendous supply shortage potentially, and that is cobalt. Cobalt right now selling at about $25 a pound, but there's all sorts of supply issues. There's moral issues because much of the world's cobalt is mined by child slave laborers, and you'd think humanity gets to a point that shouldn't be allowed, but yet it's happening. Well, new sponsor with a new outlook, a new attitude towards cobalt, and the name of the company is First Cobalt. You can find out information about them at firstcobalt, that's with a T.com. And Bryan Slusarchuk, we've spoken with you numerous times. Bryan, you're a director of First Cobalt, and it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me on, Kerry.
Hey, so did I sum up the supply issues with cobalt fairly well? That there hasn't been a lot of new investment in cobalt production. It's a byproduct of other mines, and therefore we're really in deficit production there.
Absolutely. The supply-demand fundamentals on cobalt really paint an amazing story. Cobalt's a big part of the urbanization, electrification theme in the world. You know, this is a planet that hosts 83 million new people every year. By 2030, it's estimated we'll have 8.5 billion people walking around this planet Earth. And cobalt is absolutely essential in this urbanization, electrification theme. It's an essential element in electric vehicles and in all sorts of lithium-ion batteries. In fact, it was said recently, and I think this hits the nail on the head, is that without cobalt, there'd be no Tesla. And that shows just how integral this is to the evolving dynamic that we see out there in terms of the electrification of not only vehicles, but a whole host of our everyday living. Right now, Kerry, 49% of cobalt use is for batteries. Benchmark Mineral Intelligence notes that this is slated to grow to 62% by 2020. And at the current rate, electric vehicle drivetrains are forecast to be competitive with combustion engines within the next 5 to 10 years. So very important metal. In fact, a crucial metal as the world grows.
Yeah. Great point. And you've got a really promising looking project there in Canada to mine cobalt and silver too, as almost the silver will become the byproduct.
Well, it's interesting as we build this company out, we're going to be looking for great cobalt projects around the world. We've got a great starter package of projects in Canada, including a past producing mine, a mine that was in production. This was a high-grade mine called Keeley Frontier. It produced 3.3 million pounds of cobalt, 19.1 million ounces of silver when it was in operation. And we've picked up this project, very advanced project, obviously being a past producer, and our aim is to push this forward. At the same time, the team that has been built around First Cobalt is a team that will attract world-class deal flow. One of the co-founders of First Cobalt is a fellow named Bob Cross. Bob, a Harvard MBA with an engineering degree, really well known for his role as the past chairman of Yorkton Securities, non-exec chair of Northern Orion, of course, Petro Dorado. The current chair of B2 Gold, a $3 billion plus mining entity. And Bob's not only a big shareholder, but as I mentioned, was a co-founder. Trent Mell is the CEO who's running this company and really building First Cobalt out. Trent is exceptionally well known in the mining industry in Canada. Is the past president and CEO of Falco, was involved with Barrick, was involved with Sherritt, is an M&A expert that built a securities team in Canada that raised in excess of $300 million of equity for various mining projects. Dr. Frank Sataguida, who has come on, Frank is an expert in the African Copper Belt, was a principal geologist at First Quantum, overseeing exploration in the African Copper Belt. And this is just vitally important as you look to build out a company with a slate of projects. And with guys like this around, Kerry, we're attracting world-class deal flow to evaluate, to look at, to analyze, and potentially act on.
Well, it sounds really promising, and the Keeley project is just the beginning.
Yes, that's right. It provides a great foundation. It's an asset that's just head and shoulders above many of the cobalt projects in Canada. Africa is obviously a place, in particular the DRC, where most of the world's cobalt production occurs. In fact, 65% of cobalt production in the world comes from DRC, 45% of which is via artisanal miners. And here's where the problem that you alluded to or described earlier comes up. In that mining environment, you do see children as young as 7 working. Oh. Amnesty International notes that 16 multinational brands used cobalt from mines where child labor occurs. And obviously, this is completely unacceptable. However, Amnesty International, in that same report, Kerry, notes that there is estimated to be $24 trillion in untapped mineral wealth in DRC. So DRC is a place that you need to be. However, what companies can do that go into DRC with a focus on high standards of environment, health, safety, community is tap into these large cobalt situations and at the same time improve the standard of life within the country. And what we see on the supply-demand dynamic is that not only is there a big crunch coming in terms of the supply-demand gap, but we're also seeing companies that use cobalt, companies like Apple, like Samsung, like Tesla, all become more and more concerned with that supply chain. So I think there's a huge opportunity for companies, for teams that can not only attract great projects, but can operate these projects in an ethical, sustainable way, because that's what the end users, these big companies that I just mentioned to you, that's what they're increasingly looking for when they look for cobalt supply.
Wow, it sounds amazing. And wow, so the DRC, I guess you're going to be looking at a lot of projects there in the coming months ahead, and to do it ethically and socially responsibly, really important, especially now.
For sure, Kerry. If you want to be in the cobalt business, you've got to look at projects in the DRC. That is the cobalt region of the world. The vast majority, as I mentioned, of cobalt production in the world is from DRC. So if you have a serious team of engineers, geologists, financiers looking for cobalt projects, you're going to be looking there. As a North American company, we have the potential to bring very high operating standards to whatever we do in that region. At the same time, we benefit that we have a past producing cobalt mine in Canada in our portfolio. So it's a really nice combination of deal flow to look at and at the same time a great foundation asset here in Canada. And with guys like Bob Cross, Trent Mell, Dr. Santa Guida, Peter Campbell around this, we're going to see the best of the best because this team has a proven ability to finance, a proven ability to build mines and build successful, profitable mines.
And that's what it's all about here. So price of cobalt, you think in the future it has to go higher to encourage more production because of the deficit?
It's an amazing dynamic because you have what's forecast to be dramatically increasing demand, and again, part of the electrification theme. At the same time, supply has been very challenged. So this combination has already led to the start of a move upwards in the price of cobalt. We're seeing that now, but it seems to be a freight train. It's heading higher, and it's heading higher in a hurry. This momentum is starting to escalate. And remember, as I noted, 49% of cobalt right now is used in batteries, but Benchmark Mineral Intelligence estimates this to grow to 62% by 2020. That's a big jump in a short period of time, and that's because the world is going through this electrification theme. And as was said so eloquently, and I've repeated it, without cobalt, there would be no Tesla. And to me, that just hammers home the importance of this metal as the electrification theme, as EV drivetrains grow to be more and more competitive with combustion engines. That just hammers it home to me as to the upside in this metal and as to the fact that it's just so crucial, so integral to the way the world is evolving.
Oh, for sure. And I find it fascinating that everybody's been looking at lithium deposits and nobody here, Brian, has been thinking of cobalt, which is at least as equally important because there's talk of substitutes coming up now of sodium batteries, but you still got to have the cobalt no matter what for the electrodes that come out of the battery.
That's right. And I think that because the batteries are named lithium-ion batteries, people consider lithium the most crucial piece of the puzzle, but that's absolutely incorrect. It's cobalt that has these companies that need to electrify. It has these companies nervous. They're nervous about the supply of cobalt. They know that demand for cobalt is rapidly rising. They know that there's forecast a real deficit here. And the dynamics for cobalt pricing just look so attractive and look for the short term, midterm, and long term like they have great potential to go higher. And First Cobalt, thanks to guys like Bob Cross, the co-founder of First Cobalt, thanks to guys like Bob, First Cobalt is a first and early mover in this emergence of what could very well be a several-year bull market in cobalt itself.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It's always the things you think you know about that you don't that are going to get you. And cobalt's a perfect example because everybody's scrambling for lithium, but the cobalt scramble, I guess, is just beginning to take place. And there'll probably be additional companies emerging on the scene, but you're here first. So
that's right. And guys like Bob Cross, like Trent Mell, like Dr. Santaguida, don't get involved in these early stage projects unless they think they have massive potential. Bob, as I noted, is the current chairman of B2 Gold, a $3 billion plus company. He doesn't get involved at an early stage unless he sees big blue sky, and that's what he's very accurately identified here.
So you're really poised here to really cash in on this trend. And it's not like you have a choice. You got to have cobalt. You want to do batteries, you want to do electric vehicles, you got to have cobalt. So again, you can find out more about the company, firstcobalt.com.
Yeah, on the TSX Venture under the symbol FCC, which stands for First Cobalt Corporation.
All right. We will have a link to the company's site in the show notes to this interview. Brian, it's really exciting. You just seem to get into some great projects. We wish you the best of luck, and we'll be following you closely.
Thanks so much, Gary.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.